well, I take a screenshot because that seems to get a lot more traction because it's like a more real view of what's going on. So I would take a screenshot of the episode when we're actually doing the interview. Hopefully it's when we're both smiling, having a good time, and you get a lot more traction with those types of posts too.
There's over 1.9 million podcasts. Most of them never see the results they expected. They want to monetize, but their show ends up costing them money, and they never achieve the listenership they desire. This show will help you launch, grow, monetize, and inspire with your podcast. Get ready to take notes, because here's your host, Adam Adams.
Hey, it's Adam Adams, and generally, as you may have gotten accustomed to, any even-numbered episode is supposed to be me alone pouring into you and your business. However, I did so many different interviews with so many really, really good people that on this episode today, even though this would typically just be me pouring into your business, me just sharing something short, like 5, 10, 20 minutes, where I poured into you and your podcast and growing your brand and really getting you in front of everybody. I'm going to do that today with an interview. So let's get right into it. Welcome back to the podcast on podcasting. It's your host, Adam AAA, and I've got Seth Bradley. I'm laughing because I said badly before we started recording. Seth Bradley. It is not Seth Bradley. It's Seth Bradley. And he's a friend. We've known each other. I'm approximately I would say almost 2 years.
Yeah.
We've been talking. He's in a mastermind with us about attracting capital, and just a great guy. So just a little bit more about him. I'm going to brief over his bio and share it a little bit more. So he's an entrepreneur. He has a gym that he founded around the time of COVID. You founded it, and it's thriving and doing well, even in a state that you wouldn't always expect. But additionally, he's an attorney, and he's a real estate attorney, and he's closed billions of dollars of real estate transactions, which is amazing on the attorney side, as well as a passive investor, and as well as on the general partnership of running and operating large commercial real estate. So he's a former big law attorney. He told me that if you're an attorney, you would know what that means. My sweetheart's an attorney, but it hasn't gone through to osmosis. Apparently, it means that he works at a big law firm, one of the top 200 law firms in the country. He used to, and now he has his own law firm as well. So he's the host of the Passive Income Attorney podcast. Am I saying it right, or am I?
Yeah, you got it.
Am I flipping it around with my dyslexia? Love it. And one thing that's remarkable about his show is that I think he hired more than one consultant, and he pushed it hard, and he's still pushing it hard. And I think I have a screenshot of, I don't remember if you were like top 10 or top 1, but you were ranking in certain countries right off the bat. So I really want you to talk a little bit about how you did it, what you think about it, and then we'll take some actionable tips on what you think is going to be the most helpful for somebody who's launching and growing a podcast today. So, Seth, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. We've been friends for a long time, so we're really excited to finally come on your podcast.
I'm stoked, and I'll have you in on another podcast as well. I've got the apartment investing show, and you'd be perfect for that one too. So we'll make that happen as well. But as far as your show, the Passive Income Attorney podcast, when did you launch it? And how did you get the strategy to launch it? And what is the strategy so that the listener, who is also a podcaster, can take that and run with it and get the same results?
Whew, that's a big question.
No, it's 4 questions. It's not a big one. It's just 4.
Yeah.
I need to learn. I'm the host of the podcast on podcasting and don't even know how to ask a question.
Yeah, you might have to bring me back on track here. We'll start with number 1. I remember that one. So launched in December of 2020. So towards the end of that crazy year. I'm not sure when this will air, but we're about 2.5 months in now. I actually used a lot of the strategies that you taught me, Adam, in your mastermind. I think the key one, just to get started off the bat, is really identifying your audience. I mean, identifying who your audience is, who your ideal avatar is, and who you're trying to speak to. I think that's the number one key thing to think about, when you're considering launching a podcast. It's who are you trying to speak to and who you're trying to talk to. And then from there, you can kind of start building the pieces around that.
Let me start there then. Identifying the audience. So you said that you got some help on figuring that out. So the reason I bring that up is not to pin a rose on my nose or the other consultant that you worked with, but it's really to focus on, obviously you brought this out to be one of the first most important things. And so it sounds like if you didn't have the help, you would have done it a little bit differently. That's what I'm feeling. So do you have an idea of what kind of podcast you might have launched versus the one that you did? And how identifying the audience really made a big difference?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm a real estate entrepreneur, so I'm in the real estate field. And, I initially just thought, okay, I want to launch a podcast. I want to put myself out there, get in front of an audience. And what do I know? I know real estate. So I think if you don't really dig down and think about your audience and who you want to speak to, you might be too general. And I think that's what I was going to do. I was going to come out general. I'll just throw it out there. The idea that I had was going to be the Mailbox Money podcast, which sounds great. It sounds really fun, and it's easy to say, and it makes you kind of remember it. And it seems like a good idea, but really it was just going to be another general real estate investing podcast. And there's so many of those already out there that I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to just be in that sea of the same type of thing. So I needed to, and you helped me identify this. It's like, who is your audience? Who are you really trying to speak to? It's not just all real estate investors. It's identify what niche you can niche down to. And that's what I started thinking about. And for me, because I'm a real estate attorney, I started thinking, well, I don't want to just talk to all real estate investors. Maybe I want to talk to attorneys that might want to get involved in real estate investing or passive income, or look for like a side hustle, something outside of their legal practice. They're trying to buy back their time. So that's where I started niching down and saying, okay, well, it's attorneys that kind of want to get out of the rat race. That's my audience. So then I started thinking, well, what do I want to call it? The Passive Income Attorney Podcast.
Love it. Good stuff. All right. So once you identify your audience, Seth, what's the next step toward having a awesome podcast that gets in front of your perfect audience?
Yeah, I mean, you got to start putting together all the little things that you don't even think about before you launch. I mean, a lot of people they'll just throw it out there, right? They're like, okay, I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to throw it out there, one episode a week. So let's just record episode number 1 and throw it out there and launch it. There's a lot of stuff that if you want to be successful, you've got to kind of do this pre-launch stuff that'll help you be successful for your launch. I mean, you've got to pre-promote the podcast on social media. You've got to put your logos and your branding and your colors and your intros and your outros and all that stuff together. All the marketing and branding type of stuff that goes into that. And then, another key thing before you launch is, like I said, instead of just throwing out an episode because you're going to do one a week, you need to backlog a bunch of them. You need to record a lot of episodes so that when you're ready to launch, you have a bunch of episodes ready to go, and you'll be able to really come out strong and launch more than just one episode at a time. Launch, whatever that number might be, you need to put more than one episode out on day one.
So number 1 was identifying the audience, your avatar, your perfect listener. Number 2 was a pre-launch. And you mentioned a few things that were involved pre-launch. And I liked one of the things one part that in particular was that you don't just record the first episode and then publish that, and then record the second episode and then publish that. So what I'm hearing is you want to go with the Stephen Covey example, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of those habits, if you want to be highly effective, is to begin with the end in mind.
Right.
And so you identify who you're working with. B, you start promoting the podcast before it airs to get people excited. C, you figure out your logos and branding ahead of time. D, I think, intros, recording your intros and outros. And I'm a huge proponent on the intros and outros when you spend a lot of time with the copy and make it as short and succinct as possible. So my biggest advice is to make the intro 15 seconds or less if you can, and the outro absolutely 30 seconds or less if you can. And then I'm going to ask you how you did your intro and outro, and I'm also going to talk about the music behind it as well. But I want to mention the E, or I don't know what letter I'm on, which is backlogging a bunch of episodes. So where you go in and instead of feeling like you're behind the eight ball, you get ahead of the game. Another way that I explain it frequently about backlogging a bunch of episodes is like with our finances, and you've got the Passive Income Attorney podcast, so I know you're big into finances. Most of us, we don't want to be living paycheck to paycheck in our financial world. We want to have, we want to put some money in the bank. We want to have a savings account. And I think that it's the same thing. Have a savings account of episodes as well. I like to bank a lot of them or backlog a lot of them and be able to publish a few on day one and then a little bit more in the beginning to really get the traction. Mm-hmm. And then after that, and I don't know if you do this or not, definitely will ask you the question though. I try to have like my personal podcast, the minimum ever. And I'll tell you, I've got over 100 for a couple of podcasts where I've got just so much. I could publish for a year or two with 1 or 2 episodes per week, and I wouldn't have to do anything. So it's kind of cool. I've got a year's worth of expenses in my podcasting bank account. But with the backlogging, before we get into the intros and outros, with the backlogging on the episodes, once you launched, because it sounds like really having that push was important for a launch. Are you still doing that today? Are you trying to be a week ahead, 3 weeks ahead, 6 weeks ahead, 2 years ahead?
Yeah, so I'm way ahead. So, I mean, I'll just start at the beginning. So I started out with 20 episodes to begin with. I recorded 20 episodes before I even thought about launching that first episode. So I had 20. On day one, I put out 5 episodes. And then after that first day, on every single weekday, I dropped another episode until I hit 20. But during that entire period that I was releasing more episodes, I was still recording more episodes as I was going. So at that point in time, by the time I hit the 20th episode, I had another 15 probably already recorded and ready to go. And my cadence is only weekly. So even though I was putting them out daily there for the launch, after that, it was only going to be weekly. So those 15 episodes last quite a long time. I mean, that's going to be almost 4 months. Yeah. So like right now, I have probably 15 episodes ready to go. So I have 3 to 4 months of episodes to let go and drop at any point in time, but I'm still continuing to record more. So I'm way ahead of the game. I actually had to put a stop to recording the episodes and stop scheduling people because I had too many, and I didn't want to have 100 episodes backlog. Because some of the stuff is a little bit more kind of current with real estate and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to, and some of the guests wanted to kind of promote what they have going on at that specific time. So I had to put a stop to it because I had too many episodes going. But it's, they tell you that consistency is the key, right? You don't want to not have an episode to drop every week when your audience is expecting you to drop an episode every week. So you've got to make sure that you have some backups ready to go.
And I don't know if this is helpful for you, Seth. It might be helpful. And I think for most people listening, it will absolutely be helpful. When I record episodes, I work really, really hard to not have anything that's too timely. There is a lot of people that come on and they say something like, oh, May 1st of 2021 or whatever, I've got this whatever happening. And I'm like, I stop the episode and I say to the editor, but generally what I'll say to the editor, to my post-production team is I'll say, Seth, I've got to stop you right there. And I say to the editor, I need you to take that part out. Anything about his May event isn't going to matter 10 years from now. Yeah. So cut the whole thing out, because really what I'm looking for is, for the most part, evergreen content. Because I know that a lot of our episodes, actually, what his name is Dave. I don't know why I can't remember Dave's last name, but he has a podcast about podcasting, a YouTube about podcasting. Jackson, and the guy does the exact same thing. Like, he's always working Anyway, let me just go into this part because I want to go into the intros and outros, and we don't need to talk about Dave Jackson. But anyway, so I suggest 15 seconds or less for the intro. Do you know how long your intro is?
It's probably a little bit longer. I know that when I got mine on Fiverr, the first one, and it was really long. Like when I wrote it down and I said, here's what I want you to read, and the voiceover person did it and recorded it, and I listened to it the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, this is way too long. Like I'm getting bored listening to my own intro. I was like, this is ridiculous. It's like a minute long. So I had to rewrite the script and keep it like really short. And I think it's probably about 15 to 20 seconds. It's not too much longer than 15 seconds at this point.
It's so hard to get it down, isn't it? Like most people that I work with, I tell them 15 seconds or less, and they'll bring me something that's 45 seconds.
Yeah.
And here's what I do when I'm doing this. I pull up on my iPhone. I click on the clock app, and there's like a stopwatch and a timer, and I'll click on the stopwatch, and I'll just read it in the most natural way I can, and I'll just see how long it is when I read it. And for that, I know I say 15 seconds or less, but if I can get it under 17 seconds, I'm golden. If I can get it under 17 seconds, I'm golden. And it's tough to do that. When I say if I can get it under 17 seconds, I don't mean that I'm going to talk like the Micro Machine Man. I mean that right. I mean that I need to cut the fat, trim the fat, get rid of like some of the BS stuff in there. A lot of people they're like, well, for you and your podcast, it probably matters that you graduated as an attorney from a nice school, right? It probably matters. But for a lot of us, like we're trying to say, oh, he got the Master Investor of the Year award in 2018. He got the Ads Most of Value award in 2018. He got and like at the end of the day, everybody knows everything about me, but they'll only listen to it once and then they'll never listen to my podcast again. Because it's just too much and it's too boastful, and everybody thinks that they've got to put it all in there. So I love that you did that. What about the music for your intro?
So I got the intro and the outro from Fiverr. I hired a voice actress to do it, and she had a bunch of kind of free music that I got to choose from. So it wasn't quite the strategy that you had given me, but
what did I tell you? Do you remember?
Make sure that you own the rights to that music, right? And don't have it just parlay it everywhere, all over other people's podcasts, because then it's not going to be unique. So make sure that if you pick some intro music to go along with your podcast, own those rights. So if it costs a little bit of money to buy it, and then it's yours and nobody else can take it.
There's a guy, and I'll just let y'all in on a secret here. There's a guy on Fiverr that I work with. I was a composer. Like, I don't think you knew this. Maybe you did.
I vaguely remember you saying something about it one time. Yeah.
When I was in junior high, I started composing music, and I love composing music. I loved music so much that that's what I was going to school for, music education. And I ended up getting a music degree after selling my first property, making like a ton of money. And I thought, I'm not going to be a music educator anymore. I don't want to because at the time when I graduated, my starting salary was going to only be somewhere around $20,000. And I made that already with bartending. And I made more than that on my first transaction. And I was like, I'm not going to do this. This is too much. But I don't know where I was going with that. So that's cool. Whoops. There was a reason that I brought that up.
We're talking about the music for the intro.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm glad to have you on the show today, Seth, because you'll keep me straight and you'll laugh at me when you can't. So talking about the music, I used to compose and I love doing it. And I met this guy that does a really good job and he uses really good software. And what's interesting is I've never had to pay more than $300 ever. And sometimes I can pay a lot less than that working with him. What I'll do is I'll give him like one example or two examples of something that I like. And I throw it at him and I say, my client, we just did one for Mike Butler. Mike Butler is a real estate guy too. He's launching a podcast. He's doing our top 1% podcast. And so we need to get some music. I think I'm paying like $60 for that. I just gave him 2 ideas and it's only $60. So it's not expensive to get your own, proprietary music. But all right, let's talk about your outro. My suggestion would be 30 seconds or less. Sometimes it's hard to do that, even with the outro, with all the calls to action. But the fewer calls to action, the better. If you can have 1 or 2, that's better than find me on this social media app and this social media app and this other social media app. And here's my email and download my free book and download my free PDF and download. That's a lot of people are doing that. And it takes like a minute or two. It's insane. So tell us a little bit about your outro. I guess you use the same person from Fiverr to record it. And how many calls to action? How long or short?
Yeah, it's pretty short. It's probably under 30 seconds. Again, I had the same problem. When I wrote it down, it was like, oh yeah, go to my Facebook page, go to Instagram, go to my website. Here's this lead magnet. Like it was all this stuff, and I had to pare it down. And now it says, go to my website, passiveincomeattorney.com, and check out our Facebook group. And those are the two kind of calls to action there. Cool. As far as like lead magnets and things like that, I usually they change from time to time. So I don't really want that in my pre-recorded intro outro because it changes. So I'll just say it myself at the end or the beginning of the podcast.
Love it. I do that too on this podcast sometimes. So I'll say, if you want help, go to growyourshow.com, and it's not pre-recorded. And I don't say it every single time. And when I say it a different way. And I like that you said that for a couple of reasons. One is when it can come like off the cuff and from your heart, when you offer something like your lead magnet, for example, I really just feel like it doesn't go in one ear and out the other. It lands with the audience. So in a major way, I think it makes sense for us to give our own lead magnets as we go. And I think there's a lot of reasons why, but one of them is because they change. One of them is because we might have 3 or 4, and today's episode might make sense for this lead magnet, and tomorrow's might make sense for a different one. So you could just mention that at the end. So Seth, we've got identifying the audience, this pre-launch campaign, which is, having a bank of episodes, your intros, your outros, your logos, your branding, pre-promoting it ahead of time. What is the next step? Once you've done the pre-launch, how do you do the launch?
Yeah. So once you launch, and I think I mentioned, the cadence that I did where I launched 5 and then 1 every weekday until I hit 20. The key is, and it's a lot, especially with the launch, because you have so many episodes, is putting together an email with all these different, media things like an audiogram or, a quote card or, whatever you want to put together for social media posts. Make sure you send that out to your guests and really encourage them to promote their show beforehand and after and during and all that, because hopefully those guests have their own following and probably bigger than yours when you start. So you want to make sure that you make it as easy as possible for them to promote their episode. And by doing so, you've got to give them the materials and make it as easy as possible. I mean, you can even write out a social media post for them in an email so that all they have to do is copy and paste it and then put in, whatever photo or audiogram or social media thumbnail that you provide for them, so that it just makes it, kind of a done for you type of thing, so that it'll encourage them to promote your show.
I want to unravel that. There was a lot. Part of it was that you published 5 episodes in the first day, and then you did daily episodes for the first couple of months. But you're saying that when the podcast goes live, you give your guest a few things, and which was very interesting. You could actually write their social media post for them, give them the social media post ahead of time, so they're more likely to do it, and they don't have to think about it because it's already pre-written. Right. They might change it a little bit. They might take it as a template and change what they need to, but it seems to really help. But you mentioned a few things like quote card. I think you might have talked about the promo image, the audiograms as well. What are the assets? I call them assets. What are the assets that you give to your guest so that they can share the show? Distinguish them like one by one. What are the different assets? And then I'll also want to find out who makes them and who sends them.
Gotcha. A social media thumbnail. So it's just going to be kind of a guest card with their photo and the episode title and number, perhaps. So that's 1. 2 is the audiogram. It's mainly made for Instagram, just like a quick, less than 60 seconds, hopefully a lot less than that audio clip with kind of a little animation. So that's the second thing. And then the third one is a quote card. So it'll look very similar to the episode social media thumbnail, but it just has an awesome quote, like a one-liner that they said during the interview that's really impactful.
So I was on your show, and it was a while back. But what's interesting is I think over the last month or plus, I've actually seen either stories or Facebook or LinkedIn or other posts coming in sporadically. It wasn't just like the day that it launched. It comes out over time, and that's unique. I've only seen a couple of people do that. So I wanted to understand what you post, when you post, and why you're posting these few things, these assets that you already talked about. So you're sending it to your guest to put out, but you're also doing it on your own, or maybe you have a teammate that does it for you. I really want to unravel why I keep getting tagged. No, I'm not mad about it. I'm just asking, like, why do I keep getting tagged over time? Because maybe there's a lesson in there for our listener who's a podcaster. I know I don't do it, so you're gonna have to be the expert on this.
Yeah. So I think that the thing is, you put a lot of work into creating these podcast episodes, right? I mean, you've got to secure the guests, you've got to interview them, you've got to edit, you've got to put it together and launch it. And a lot of people do that and release it, and then it's gone. And you launch it, you maybe make one social media post about it that day that it launches, and then you never look at it again. To me, it's kind of like, you can keep using that same material and keep promoting that episode, even if it's, weeks or months later. I mean, as you said, try to make your episodes evergreen so that whenever somebody listens to them, it doesn't really matter. So you can refer them back to past episodes. You've already created all those assets for the guest, right? So that's 3 assets that I named before. Well, that's at least 3 posts. So maybe you post one of those assets on the day that you release, but then you've got 2 more to go. So if I do the social media thumbnail with the episode release, that's for one day. And then maybe a month later, I'll try to revive the episode, get a few more downloads, that kind of thing. And I'll post the quote card or post the audiogram, whatever it might be. And it made me think of another thing that I do as well. I take a screenshot, because that seems to get a lot more traction, because it's like a more real view of what's going on. So I would take a screenshot of the episode when we're actually doing the interview. Hopefully it's when we're both smiling, having a good time, and you get a lot more traction with those types of posts too. So that's the 4th asset. How do
you take the screenshot? Like, do you warn your person, hey, I'm about to take a screenshot, or you just like go into the bottom left, clip this, you type in snip, and then you just like kind of start smiling while they're doing it?
I don't do it live. So I'll just wait till once we're done.
It'll be after.
I'll watch the video, and find a good spot and take a snippet.
That's cool. That makes sense. Because I was trying to imagine myself doing it while we're having, and I'm like looking at the screenshot, looking at the camera, looking back at the screenshot. Yeah.
It just makes it
that's
awkward.
what I imagined myself, is just being awkward. Not that it would be the first time. But talking about you mentioned the callback, referring your listener back to previous episodes. And I think that's absolutely brilliant. And we all need to be doing a better job during our interviews. Like while we're in the interview. Now, unfortunately, I don't have all my episode numbers, because I'm actually recording this evergreen episode today before the podcast is launched. And so I'm not going to be able to say, oh, this is, I guess I could if I want to do, this is 101 if I wanted. But I'm not, I don't know yet where I want to put it. But one thing that I think is important, and I know Joe Fairless does it. I've been on a guy named Joe Fairless's podcast a couple of times. And when you're on it again, he always says, now, if you want to know more about him, he was on this other episode, and he calls back. And what that does is it gets people, when I go back on the show, I'm proud of myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was on his podcast again. And so then I might actually publish it and share it with my audience, because I feel so good about myself. And then on that episode, he's calling back to the other episode. Yeah. And so he's getting extra downloads because I'm sharing it again. And then he's getting even more downloads because he had the foresight, begin with the end in mind, to say on the call, hey, he was on episode 1400. I don't remember what the number was, but he was on this other episode. And so, a small portion of the person that I share it with will actually go back, but it gets a lot more downloads, and it makes him more of an influencer, more famous. And so he does a really good job with it. I'm glad you brought that up. So screenshots, audiograms, can you define a quote card And can you define an audiogram? And can you define this this other? I guess I'll call it a promo image. But what is a quote card exactly? What does it look like? What shape is it? How is the branding? What's an audiogram? And what is the promo image?
Yeah. So for the quote card, it's a great quote, like a quick, short one-liner, a sentence or less that your guest said that was really impactful during the interview. Put that on, you could actually make one for each type of social media. There's an ideal size photo to post on each social media. So if you post it on Instagram stories, there's a better size for that than if you post it on Instagram as opposed to LinkedIn or Facebook. You don't necessarily have to do all that, but if you can, it's better. I try to keep it pretty simple. Square really works with just about anything. So if you're just going to do one, I would say do the square because that works on Instagram and looks good on pretty much anything. So that's the quote card. For the audiogram, it's just it's an audio tidbit takeaway from the interview as well. It can be a little bit longer than the quote card. It'll be 15 seconds to up to 60 seconds. It's a max of 60 seconds on Instagram for what will actually end up being a video on Instagram.
Okay, so that's the audiogram. That's the quote card. And then is there another one that's more of just like an episode artwork that's different from the quote card?
Yeah, social media thumbnail is what I call a social media thumbnail. It's really like an episode card or an interview card, I think people call it. It's just going to be a photo of your guest with.
Is that going to be a square title. Also? If
you're going to do one, I would say square. But again, some people have one cut out and for each type of social media, because there's an ideal size for each one. But if you're going to do one, a square is probably the best.
I like that, and I agree. What we do is we do a square, we do a rectangle. And then we do an audiogram and a videogram, and we send the email. The audiogram, videogram are generally 17. They're shorter than the minute, but we email it to them. We email their attachments to the email. But I also know a lot of people that put everything into a Google Drive or maybe what's the other Dropbox link, and they'll just email the link. They'll say, "Hey, go to this link." I want to ask you what you do, but I want to share also why I personally just put it in the email. I put it in the email because they can already see it, they can already visualize it, they can already decide if they wanted to share it. Yeah, and I think that helps a little bit. Where instead of making them kind of jump through that extra hoop of going to the Dropbox, but I also see a lot of pros with having a Dropbox or a Google Drive link. So it sounds like you do so many different assets that maybe a Google Drive link or a Dropbox would work best. But I just want to ask you, what are you doing in between the two, or if you have a third option, and why?
I actually do it via email. So I'll email the guest one day before the episode launches, and it has all the assets in it. It has general links to the show on, let's see, YouTube, and then my podcast website, and Apple, and what's the other one? I don't know. But just the general links to my show, because it hasn't been live yet. So those other links, the episode specific links, aren't available yet. So I'll give the general links. I'll provide the assets in an email, let them know the show is going to launch tomorrow. Please put this out to your network, all that kind of stuff. And then I'll send them a second email the day of launch with the actual links to their episode, encouraging them again to share with their network. And, it'll have maybe some quotes or, a pre-made social media post for them, and also encourage them to rate and review the show. I think that's important too.
I agree with everything that you just said. When they get this twice, I do the same thing. And I've seen an increase in the amount of people that do it than if I do it just sending one. So if I just send only the one, it seems like I get... I'm trying to guess because I don't have the metrics on it, but it feels like I'm getting maybe 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5 if I only send them the one email. But it feels like I get maybe 2 out of 5 or 3 out of 5 if I send them the day before and the day of. And just curious, I don't have like a written down metric on that. I'm going from memory. It's one of those made up statistics that we all know about. But But what are you seeing? Because you're doing it the day before and the day of. Are you getting a good amount of them actually sharing it or no?
Yeah, and on top of that, I think you need to prep them because you know how social media is, man. Sometimes it's a pain, right? Like you've got to post every single day, you've got to come up with content. So the easier you can make it for them, the better. And I think by sending them an email the day before, it also kind of jogs their mind a little bit. They're like, oh, okay, my episode is going to go live tomorrow, so maybe I need to post about social media tomorrow about that instead of like the day of when they're already kind of in the thralls of their business and they're busy. And they all of a sudden get an email the day of, oh, your podcast episode launched. Go ahead and please post on social media. They're like, I don't have time for this today. And they just forget about it. And, another thing that you do on the day of launch, I mean, I'm also making my own posts on all the social media platforms about them and tagging them too. So you're tagging them and then, they'll see that. And a lot of times, they'll comment or, the easiest thing for them to do, which isn't the best to get traction, is for them to just kind of reshare your post. But, at the very minimum, they'll do that.
Yeah. Love it. And I think that there's a bit of reciprocity or squeaky willness with you tagging them and you making multiple posts. Because to the guest who keeps getting tagged, I mean, I think I've been tagged 5 times. Yeah. Am I exaggerating that? Am I
No,
exaggerating?
you probably have because the episode release, the quote card, and then probably an audiogram on a different day. And those are also, and I'm tagging you, on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. So you're getting, you're like, oh my gosh, he's tagging me like 5 times on 5 different platforms on 3 different days. So yeah, it probably seems like a lot, but at least you're thinking about it.
I'm not complaining either, but I want to talk about reciprocity and squeaky willness, which I made up squeaky willness. That's my own name, my own term. And I just made it up right now, which is kind of cool. So you got to experience it right here, live, which is kind of cool. And squeaky willness means that you're staying in front of people, and whoever's the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And so here you are publishing it, 5 times, and it makes it more likely, just because I'm like, I just need to send that out to my people, because you're the squeaky wheel. So if I haven't done it yet, I'll be like, okay, fine, I'm just going to share it. I'll share it, all right. But also with the reciprocity, just like the way that it feels when I get 5 times that I get tagged from you, I'm like, man, this guy really likes me. He really cares about me. He liked my episode, and I'm starting to say, man, if he likes me this much, I need to like him too. And if I like him, I got to do what he's doing. So I got to tag him, and I'm going to go and show him, that I care. So it's kind of funny. I think that you going through the extra work does do that. I want to find out about with your pre-launch, but mostly with the launch itself and all these assets and all these posts and all these email follow-ups. Like, are you managing this yourself? Do you have somebody doing it for you? Do you have a virtual assistant? How does that work?
Yeah. So Adam, I'm still trying to figure this out myself, man. I'm still trying to streamline it than I have it right now, but I do have VAs doing, all the heavy lifting. I'm still kind of managing the VAs to a certain extent, and I have to double check everything. It's not completely automated yet, but I'm getting there. I'm working my way towards it. I'm only in the 2nd or 3rd month at this point. So we're getting there, but I have VAs that, create the assets. They're graphic designers. So they're creating the assets, they're creating the audiograms, they're doing the audio, the video production for YouTube. They're putting together the show notes. They're creating everything for me. And then I have another VA that actually is helping me with social media now. So she's pre-creating these posts I use Zoho Social right now. And you're able to actually...
Zoho Social?
Yes. And it's a way to kind of...
I don't know that. What is it?
It's a social media aggregator. So all of your you can connect all your social media accounts to Zoho Social, and you can create posts on just the one piece of software on Zoho Social and post it to all of your social media accounts. And another good thing about that is you don't have to give your VAs access to each and every one of your social media accounts for them to get in there and mess stuff up. It's all on Zoho Social. So they already have kind of a limited access to your social media accounts, and they can pre-create posts, and then you can approve them or edit them before they actually go live. So I have somebody doing that, and I have somebody also uploading my podcast to, my website. So they've got to create a WordPress blog post, which, for each episode has a different webpage, uploading it to YouTube, and also uploading it to Podbean, which is the distribution website that I use.
Awesome. There's so much. What's awesome about today's interview so far, the amount of actionable takeaways, like things that we really need to do. And so I really appreciate it. I really, really appreciate you coming on. Again, Seth's podcast is called the Passive Income Attorney Podcast. And so if you're an attorney, you definitely need to be listening to this. He teaches you how to get yourself out of the rat race. So instead of having to trade your time for dollars, you can trade your dollars for dollars. You actually literally put the money to work, let it go to work really hard for you. And in the business that he has, there's people that are doing this that are making tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions each year passively, which more than in many cases more than takes care of their active income. So if they want to keep working, they can, but if they want to take a break, they can easily take a break. They have the option to spend the time with their family, or to not take on that client because they don't want to represent him or whatever it is. So Seth's a great guy. I would say jump over to the Passive Income Attorney Podcast and give him a rating and review if you don't mind. Shout out the show. Hey, I heard you on the podcast on podcasting. Just wanted to give you a rating that you deserve. So jump over there and see if it can help you or a friend. Seth, what else do you want to share with a newer podcaster? Let's say they're either just starting out or they've had their podcast for less than a year. What did we miss that you might be able to help them with?
Yeah, I don't know if we necessarily missed this, but I think that it's just such a key. And this is for someone that's already launched as well. It's just keeping your audience and your avatar in mind. And that also goes along with, keeping your end goal in mind. What is your goal for starting the podcast? And if you've already launched, keep that in mind. What was your goal and what is your goal? Because sometimes you can get away from that. And I've kind of caught myself getting away from it as well. I wanted to come out and just give all these different kinds of passive income streams and come from a neutral party. But my whole world revolves around real estate. So I've kind of veered off into just real estate. And I needed to take a step back. And I literally had to tell people that were asking to come to my podcast, no, because they're more real estate people. So that I can kind of get back to what my original goal was. And that's educating attorneys about passive income, not just real estate. So, keep your goal in mind as you continue down that pathway, even a year in, 2 years in. Don't forget why you started it and what your goals are.
I'm sorry that I have to ask you a follow-up question, because I thought we were done, and you were like, dude, this is a billable hour. So how do you keep your guest on track? I've been podcasting for a long time. I've done more than 500 episodes published more than 540 episodes as we record this, and probably recorded another 150 episodes on top of that without exaggeration. And one of the hardest things that I have noticed is I might have a guest who wants to go rogue. I might have a guest who wants to go rogue. I'm wearing a rogue shirt today, my CrossFit shirt, but which I guess is probably bad in your opinion, Seth, CrossFit, because you're going to talk about how much injuries we get because you have a better gym, but that's fine. It's all good. But how do you keep your guest from going rogue on your show, doing too much self-promotion or going completely off topic? You ask them like, what's the name of your show? And then they spend like 5 minutes telling you how they started their show. They haven't even talked about the name of your show. So, what do you think?
I don't know. I have a preset list of questions that I send to the guests actually the day before the interview. And I know that's a lot of work, and I don't know if I'm going to continue to do that because it is so much work on my end. So I kind of go off of that. I just kind of have a free flowing conversation. But if it starts to go off track, I'll just say, let's switch gears for a minute. And by switching gears, it means from what you're talking about back to what I want to talk about, right? So that's kind of just that stopping point. Like, Okay, well, that's great. Let's switch gears for a second. And then I kind of go back to my sheet and ask a question that I know that's for my audience.
Okay. I'm going to use that. I asked selfishly because I really wanted to learn, because you're not my first episode today. I know that you don't want sloppy seconds, but you're not my first episode today. And the other episodes had a little bit of challenge. So let's switch gears for a moment. That's the biggest takeaway.
Switch gears for a minute.
That's my biggest takeaway. All right. Jump in and follow Seth at Passive Income Attorney Podcast. I recommend him, and I think that he'll help you with getting passive income, but also to be a lot of fun for you to follow his show. Seth, so many actionable takeaways. I really appreciate it, but I am going to have to say, see you later.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me on.
Laters. Oh, hey, because 3 of my clients came to me recently looking to find a way to have their podcast make them money instead of cost them money. We put together a resource for some of our clients, and I want to give it to you as well. It's something that did actually seem to help, because one of them is now making $2,600 a month. Another one's $4,500 a month. And the third is making between $5,000 and $10,000 each month. And so it's been a resource that's been incredibly valuable to them. It's our sponsor sheet template. It's a template of a sponsor sheet, and it gives you something that you can hand to potential sponsors, and hopefully also be making $2,600, $4,500, or between $5,000 and $10,000 regularly each month with your podcast. So this has been a contributing factor to helping all 3 of those clients turn their podcast into an additional income stream for them. And the way that you can find it is just going to our website, growyourshow.com, but put in /templates, growyourshow.com /templates. And then you can actually download that template and others that could be valuable to your podcasting experience. I'll see you on the next episode.